Hi everyone, my name is Joey. I'm a finance professional working in China. Today I'm going to give a brief introduction of Microsoft Power Automate. I also give a simple but real-life example of how to use Power Automate to automate your process and eventually improve efficiency. Power Automate is one of the applications of Power Platform that Microsoft introduced quite some time back. With the recent development of AI, it's getting more powerful and popular. In the past, digital transformation in an organization heavily relied on internal or external IT resources. The Power Platform provides users with the opportunity to build their own solutions through an intuitive local or even no-code set of services. These services help simplify the process of building solutions. Microsoft Power Platform is composed of four key products: Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Page. My series of videos will focus on Power Automate, of course with necessary integration of other applications whenever necessary. Okay, let's get started. There are multiple ways of accessing Power Automate as long as you have an account or environment set up properly. For example, you can actually access the Power Automate through your team account if your organization has set it up. In your team, you can click the three dots where you can see that there is a workflow in that. Actually, workflow will just link to the Power Automate. If you click the workflow, it will just show the contents that's embedded in the Power Automate. So currently in this environment, actually I haven't really created any Power Automate yet, right? So that's why you don't see anything. But if you want to create something within the team environment, you can just press this new flow button, right? But since the web, you can also access the Power Automate through the website. The web version actually is more intuitive and straightforward. That's why the following demonstrations, we will be using the web version of the Power Automate. So on this page, you can see I've already signed in my account. But if it is your first time going into the Power Automate, you can just type the address make.powerautomate.com. Then it will just log on into your account, right? So currently I have an environment account and environment set up for myself. So it will just automatically log into the account. But if it is your first time, you will have to type in your user credentials to log in the website. Okay, so on the left of the Power Automate homepage, you can see all the navigations where you will have access to different functions of Power Automate. The home actually gives you all the general informations that you need to do your next steps. The good thing about the Power Automate is it actually integrates the Copilot AI into the Power Automate. On this page, you can see actually you can just describe what you want to achieve. Then the Copilot will try to give you a solution. It won't be exactly the solution that you're looking for, but it will give you a close enough solutions for you to start with, right? And then, of course, you can start creating your own workflows or automation workflows by pressing this create. It will give you different types of workflows that you want to create, right? So later we will introduce a very simple example. Of course, Microsoft actually provides a lot pre-built templates that you can use. So most of the time, before we start to create our own process or flow, probably it's a good idea to look into the existing templates that's already there to see if there is or anything readily available to use, right? If not, then we can start to build our own, right? And Microsoft also kind enough to provide a lot of learning resources to help to people to understand the tool and use the tool, right? And Microsoft also provide actually learner accounts for you to use. But during the process, actually, I find it's very once you get into the details, right? You find it's difficult to use the free learning accounts in Microsoft because you try to integrate Power Automate with other applications along the way in the future. So using one free account, it will be getting difficult. So that's the reason why actually I acquired a full set of account under the Microsoft 365 Business Basic. You can see this page. I acquired this license actually for me to learn. So since I'm in China, so the quote actually is in CNY. It's like 46 RMB per month, close to 6 to 8 US dollar a month. This actually provides almost all the applications that is required for you to learn. Not only the Power Automate, basically all the applications within the Power Platform solutions. Right? Okay. So and then my flow actually will help you to check all the flows that's already created within this Power Automate environment, and you can click on the flows that's already created, and then it will just link to the flow, and you can do change, modification, or even monitor the flow, etc. Right? And down below there are also a lot of tools that Power Automate provides. In the future, we will touch on that gradually. One of the example is the AI Hub. Just I mentioned, right, the good thing about the Power Automate or Power Platform itself as a whole is Microsoft integrated Copilot into everything, into every application, and also it integrates the AI models into the use. For example, you can write a prompt or use a preview prompt to do something like summarize a text or extract information from the text. These tools actually will be very useful as you're getting deeper into the automation. For example, if we want to extract some information from the email and use that information for your next step, these prompts will be very important to integrate into the process. Later in the future series of videos, we will touch on that. Okay. And today, actually, we are going to build a very simple flow, automated flow, that basically is just trying to demonstrate the capability of Power Automate. And the example actually is simplified, but it's a real-world example. Just imagine if you have a email account. Every day you receive email from different senders, different counterparties, right? And one of the things we often do is we download the attachment in the email and save it under a share drive, a SharePoint, or OneDrive folder, right? This is kind of a repetitive work quite a lot of us will encounter in our work. So actually Power Automate will be able to automatically process that as long as you have a flow ready, right? So if you want to do that, right, so basically you can click this one new flow button, and then since now actually I'm using a cloud version, so I'm going to use an automated cloud flow. I can create a name, say download the email attachment when a new email arrives, right? So this actually requires a trigger. So what is a trigger? Trigger is basically some events happens, then the following automated process will start, right? So just take the example I described, right? So basically, when an email arrives, we will have to trigger this flow to see whether there is an attachment, right? If there is an attachment, then we will upload that or save that attachment into a specific folder, right? So we just need to have a flows trigger. So in this example, basically the trigger is when a new email arrives, right? So we can just write email. So yeah. So once you write email, right, the Power Automate actually will give you multiple relevant choices for you to choose from, right? So it really depends on what type of application or software that you are using. You need to choose the proper one. Since now the environment or the account that I'm using is the Office 365 Outlook, right? So I just need to choose a trigger that's associated with Office 365 Outlook, right? So you can see down below there is one. It specifically actually meets our requirements when a new email arrives, and this is on the Office 365 Outlook. So I choose this one, right? Then I click create. Then it will jump into this kind of design interface or environment with a trigger that you just now selected when a new email arrives, right? So click on this one, and then there are multiple parameters that you can choose from actually. So basically we are just going to scan through every email. Of course, we can also specify if the email includes attachment or not, right? So it will just automatically filter at the first step of the trigger. So we can use this one. Of course, we can also use another condition basically as a next step to see whether this email includes a attachment or not, right? But since this when a new email arrives trigger will be able to manage to determine whether a attachment is included or not, we can just use that, right? So just click use yes, right? And then down below, actually, because I have set up my environment properly, right? Down below, actually, it will automatically connect to my Office 365 account. So here you can see connected to my account already. But if it is your first time using this, actually, you just need to connect to your account manually, right? For example, add new account, right? Then you just need to do a sign in. But since I've already set up my account properly, so I don't need to do this step, right? So this actually is a concept of connector. Connector basically is something similar to the APIs that this Power Automate application connects or interface with other applications. So for example, in this example, Power Automate will have to interact with the Office 360 application, Outlook applications, right? So there has to be a connect and authentication process happening, right? So this connection basically serves that purpose. So once that's done, we will just need to do one more next step. So before I do that, I forgot to set another two parameters. So one is I only want to look at those emails with the attachment. And then I also want to specify which folder are we going to look into. So basically we'll be look at the inbox. Because my email account actually was set up in Chinese, so that's why it's all shown in Chinese, right? But in a nutshell, I'm selecting the inbox to look at to set the trigger. Okay, all right. So once that's done, we can select the next step. So basically the next step is trying to look at the emails, whether if that includes a attachment, then we will upload that attachment to a specific folder. Just now we mentioned the concept of connector, right? So basically this is also a step that requires a connector, that requires a connector. So there are multiple connectors that we can use. It really depends on where you want to save the file. For example, if you want to save onto a OneDrive, then you will have to use a OneDrive connector. If you want to save the file to a SharePoint, then you will have to use the SharePoint connector. So in this example, I'm going to use the OneDrive for Business that I set up in my overall environment. So I can just write OneDrive. Right. So you can see there are choices that you can make. Since now I'm using the OneDrive for Business under the license that I bought, so I just choose the OneDrive for Business. So the one that we are going to use basically is to create a file on the OneDrive using the attachment from the email, right? So we just click the create file. So in the create file, there will be the pop-up will require you to write appropriate parameters. For example, where do you want to save the file? What will be the name of the file, and what will be the content of the file? So this should be very straightforward, right? So assuming I'm going to save the file in my OneDrive for Business, and there is a folder that I already created in my root drive of the OneDrive for Business attachments. So I just choose I want to save the file into the attachments. And then file name, you see there is the thunder icon on the right of this box, right? So this is where actually you can choose a dynamic inputs from the previous steps of this process, right? So basically, I want the file name to be exactly the same as the file name of the attachment in the email that just arrived in the inbox, right? So basically, when we look at this, right, so we can just choose the parameters that's passed through from the trigger step, right? So the file name actually it's not really shown here, but you can click the see more. It will just show everything, right? So basically, you just need to find the correct parameter to use. So the file name, I want the file name to be the same as the attachment name, so I just choose the attachment name. And then the content basically is the attachment itself, right? So I just choose the content, attachment content. With this step, actually it will just save the file, save the attachment into the folder that I want, right? And down below you can also see there is a connector to the specific account of my overall environment, right? For different cases, for different people, different accounts, you can just change the connections, right? So, and it also really depends on which folder you want to save, right? If that folder is falling under another account name, another environment, then you need to choose that folder name. You need to choose that account and do the sign-in or authentication process. Okay, so with that, I think it's basically that's the two steps that I want to do. One is a trigger, and then if attachment is included in the email, then save that attachment onto the target OneDrive folder that I choose, right? So I think that's all the steps that I want to do. And Power Automate actually will be automatically putting a for each kind of loop, right? Because there might be multiple attachments in one email, right? We just want to loop through all the attachments and making sure every attachment is saved into the destination folder. Okay. All right. I think that's all the steps that's required in this simple example. And the next step, we can just save that. Right. Okay, so it's saved, it's done. And then we can just test it, right? So oh, okay, there's some feedback. So probably I just randomly click, okay. All right, so we just click test. In the test flow, actually, we can just choose manually, right? Because the trigger itself is when a new email arrives. So probably later I will have to write a random email to myself, of course with a attachment to that email, and then see how that goes, right? So I just click manually and do the test, right? So now it's running at the back, right? Because now I'm not really sending email yet, so it won't have anything to show up, right? But let me open my email account. My Outlook, yeah. Okay. So let me write a new email to myself. Yeah, this is my own email. And text for Power Automate, right? And I also need to attach a file. Browse this Mac. I just randomly choose a file. Let's say DeepSeek API. Choose test, right? And then I just click send. Okay. Then let's move back to the Power Automate environment, which is under the web browser. So it's running. Okay. So now you see it popped out, right? So once the Power Automate detects the trigger, which is a new email coming into my inbox, right? Then it will automatically drive that, right? So it will create a file. So the next step basically is to check whether that file, the file that I send, attached to the email that I send, is the same file that's saved on the OneDrive, right? So let me open my team, which I can have access to my OneDrive, and click my file and attachment. Okay, so now you can see there is a file DeepSeek API that was saved about a minute ago, right? So this is the file that I sent, right? And now it's automatically uploaded into my OneDrive account, my destination folder that I choose, right? So that's basically a very simple example to show how automation works, how to create flows in Power Automate to help you basically automatically process some of the repetitive work that you do on a daily basis, right? So that's basically end of the example, right? Okay, thanks for watching. For the next few videos, I'll be, based on this simple example, I'll be exploring other functions or tools that can be used to further expand the capability of this Power Automate. For example, right, just based on this simple example, if the attachment is a zip file, right, and you want the original file to be extracted from the zip file and saved on the destination folder. How should we do that, right? So in the next video, I'll be elaborate on that. Okay, see you then.